Hello, my name is Ahn'aste Summers, and I'm going to start off with discussing some of the important roles of a special education educator. So, you have to develop IEPs, which is the instructional education programs. In order to do that, you have to assess the student on the skills and things that they already know and determine what their needs are, which will help you create their goals. You have to be able to adapt to general lessons, and you have to be able to differentiate. As a special education teacher of a self-contained classroom, I am given general ed material curriculum, and I have to differentiate for my students, all different types. It is really important to make sure that you're planning activities that specifically are designed for your students' needs, because at the end of the day, when you're a SPED teacher, the most important thing is making sure that you're reaching and maintaining progress with your students' goals. We have to make sure that after you develop the IEP, you have to make sure that you're implementing it. You have to make sure that you're assessing their performance, and you have to make sure ultimately that you're tracking the progress of whatever that you're assessing on your students. You have to make sure that you're supervising and you're mentoring any teacher assistants that you might have inside of your classroom. For example, I have an assistant, and I had to personally take the time to make sure that she knew what she was doing. She had to do certain videos to make sure that she knew about helping the different students and their different needs and disabilities. So, legally, they are tasked with making sure that they maintain the students' records. So if they're assessing, they're doing different activities, all those things need to make sure that they're being maintained and managed. They have to follow appropriate safeguards. They have to make sure that they're maintaining confidentiality requirements when you're dealing with students. So at my school, if we decide we want to put work up for our special education students, we have to make sure that we take their names off of the work. Or if we take a picture of them, it can't be outside of the classroom because it's a breach for confidentiality. And you have to make sure that you're always engaging in appropriate planning when it comes to the legal side. As a special education teacher, you have a big role for making sure that you're able to collaborate responsibly. So you have to make sure that you recognize and respect the skill and expertise of all your colleagues, because something that you might not know, somebody else might know, and that can benefit you in your classroom, in your planning, when you're creating different things. It is really important, and when you're collaborating, to make sure that you're striving to develop and maintain a positive environment. If you guys are all a team, it works better being a team than everybody doing their own thing, especially in one classroom or even in the same school. Sometimes you have to collaborate with other schools and organizations to help serve your students. So in the month of April, I'm on the Autism Awareness Committee. So we get different shirts and different things from the autism funding. They send us different things, and we do walks and things like that. So it's really important to make sure that you're connected with other schools. You have to, this is super important, you have to make sure that you're not only collaborating with your other special education teachers, but you have to collaborate with the general education teachers as well, because a mix is really important, and it's really a good idea to make sure that you're able to make sure that your students can adjust in all type of settings. And the last thing for collaborating is to make sure that you do not engage in any conflicts or interests that have nothing to do pertaining to you or your students, because we are there to do a job. Personally, I think that it is very important to have a vision for your students, especially the ones that I serve. Many students with disabilities face challenges every day, and they have labels placed upon them solely based off of the disabilities that they have. I have high expectations for every student that I serve currently and in the future. Just because a student has a disability, it doesn't mean that their resources or education should be limited in any way. A disposition that I will include in my teaching is fairness, honesty, and advocacy. It's really important to be fair because it helps build relationships between not only the students but also their families, because we have to make sure that we're able to connect with our families. I will continue to actively engage students in conversation beyond the classroom setting. So me and my students, we have discussions all the time. It's not just things that are happening curriculum-wise. I'll talk to them about things about how their day is going. I'll talk to them about their family, connecting things they're going to do on the weekend or breaks and things like that. I always make sure that we're connected with each other. I think that honesty is super duper important because it has helped carry me throughout my career. I teach my students to mean what they say, speak truthfully to me and to each other, and always remain transparent when you're making decisions when it comes to the students that I'm serving. Before I became an educator, I've always valued being an advocate. Many students are nonverbal and they aren't able to communicate their wants and their needs. I have to continue to build positive relationships with the students and their families. Being an advocate for students ensures that I rely on my problem solving skills to serve my students. I can envision as a special education educator that I will create a calming yet fun and diverse classroom setting for all of the students. I know that I will try to build a strong collaborative relationship between the families and the special education team that is maybe the ones in my classroom, whoever the teacher is that I'm collaborating with in the classroom, or other grades that are special education teachers, as well as the special education coordinator. Character traits that I already have that will help carry me into my career in the future is being an empathetic person, being honest, and I'm very, very patient. These traits will continue to ensure that I uphold myself as not only an adult, but an educator as well. An ethical framework that I have been a witness to is watching my teacher mentor from undergrad. My teacher mentor will always respect the rights of the students that she served. She would discuss how every decision made for the students would be with students' dignity and respect. This teacher modeled advocacy for her students all year. Anytime that she felt like her students weren't receiving proper services, they were being left out because of their academic level, she would voice her opinion and she would advocate for them until she would see a change. Her choices and her style of teaching made a huge influence on how I teach effectively today. I, in the future, will be an advocate for all of my students and incorporate ideas of independence and self-advocacy in my classroom. My mentor teacher, she set aside time every day to ensure that she would give her students positive affirmations, not only to her giving them affirmations, but them also giving affirmations to each other. Many children with special needs struggle with their confidence, so I feel like this is really important because it helps them grow not just academically, but also socially. It helps with their social skills. It's important to not only educate them academically, but again, like I said, we have to make sure that we're developing on our social skills. When I am asked to determine special education eligibility, I will keep the important ethical frameworks of being equal, professionally accountable, and respectable of every student. My job is to educate, support, and help shape these students into well-rounded citizens. The Christian worldview offers a lens where many people can interpret the ways life works through morality and purpose. Each educator is given a purpose. We were chosen to help educate and nurture students with learning disabilities as well as behavior challenges and their needs. As educators, we build relationships that help define who we are as people. God created the world and everyone in it. Our jobs are to fulfill His orders through allowing us to assist all children with learning disabilities. Humanity was created in God's image. As God's servants, we have a responsibility to steward the earth and care for the people that are in it. As an educator, there is always room for growth. As a special education teacher, growth is super important. I plan to facilitate my learning by engaging in professional development, committing to certain practices that benefit my students' learning needs, and constant reflection. I will remain adaptable and dedicated. It is important to uphold high leverage practices such as collaborating, assessing, social emotional learning, and instruction. I want to make sure that my students are comfortable and accept all types of learning throughout our classroom space. I will create assessments that tailor to the different learning abilities of all of my students. These assessments will include behavior and academic based on the goals of my students.